President Isaac Herzog will start consultations with all parliament groups elected to the 25th Knesset today, after which he will announce the member of the parliament he will task with forming a government. But just on Tuesday, his office denied media reports that he called current Prime Minister Yair Lapid and Defense Minister Benny Gantz to ask them to sit in a unity government with Benjamin Netanyahu. The outgoing Prime Minister and Defense Minister previously making it clear they would not enter a government with the Likud leader. Coalition meetings well underway, though, with Netanyahu meeting with far-right leader Itamar Ben-Gvir in Tel Aviv on Monday. And just yesterday, Netanyahu meeting with Avi Maoz, the head of the anti-LGBTQ Noam party. Maoz had threatened to boycott a right-wing coalition unless Noam could hold separate talks with the incoming prime minister. It's the smallest of the three factions in the far-right slate, taking up just one seat out of the 14 secured by the religious Zionism party. Let's bring in I-24 News International and political correspondent Batya Leventhal joining me live in studio. Batya, Isaac Herzog today will meet with representatives from the Likud, Yesh Atid, National Unity, and Shas. He will also meet with other parties tomorrow and Friday. Walk us through who these different parties will give their recommendation for when it comes to the prime minister.
Absolutely. But before getting into where the recommendation is likely to fall, it's interesting to note that in Israel, there's very much a formal procedure once elections have taken place and the formal result comes out. Now, that result has only actually officially landed in the president's hands as of this morning. That is the official vote of the elections. On election night, we kept saying these are just exit polls. They are just results that are coming out minutes after the polls have closed. Today is the official result that lands in President Isaac Herzog's hand. In terms of the procedural formality, again, this is more of a ceremonial procedure that Isaac Herzog technically has the ability to speak with all members and then decide for himself who is the most likely to form a government based on who is the most likely to hold a majority. Now, that's not normally the case in the most modern years. What tends to happen is the parties make a recommendation and Isaac Herzog would tend to follow what the parties are making, which brings me to your question of the most prominent candidate is likely going to be Benjamin Netanyahu. From a matter of Yesh Atid, National Unity, a lot of these parties have conceded, and rightfully so, in the sense that this is the will of the people, and have turned around and said, that's fine, we will now join the opposition. At the end of the day, the votes and the people have signaled Benjamin Netanyahu being the rightful prime minister in the next government in the 25th Knesset, and that is most likely what the Israeli president himself will pick in terms of forming a coalition.
Well, Benjamin Netanyahu himself echoing that sentiment, meeting with several individuals from his right-wing bloc. Who is he meeting with and what kind of positions are up for grabs?
Now, normally this process has a total time span of around 42 days. We have to remember elections were just a week ago. So the big question here is not necessarily who he's meeting with, but why the rush? The reality is given the instability that has flowed in Israel throughout the last couple of years, Benjamin Netanyahu is desperate to sort of upseat and eject Yair Lapid from the prime ministerial office and replace himself. And in order to do that, he's got to form some kind of a government that can function come Monday morning, come, the beginning of the week, and that is his aim. So for now, he is discussing with the factions that got the majority of the seats to be able to form a right-wing government. We're talking about leaders on the far right, like Itamar Ben-Gvir, as well as Bezalel Smotrich, that both led the far-right faction. Again, these are anti-LGBTQ, very far on the right-wing political spectrum, but also meeting with more moderates on that right-wing spectrum, more of the ultra-Orthodox parties like Shas, United Torah Judaism. So he's very much trying to run a balance, and it's going to have to be a carefully delicate balance of choosing members that not only have been loyal to him, but also have the actual skills to be able to pull off the ministerial portfolios that they're going to be given.
And Batya, finally, very quickly, midterm elections in the United States. How can we expect this new government in Israel to work with a new governing body in the United States?
I think the more interesting question here is not, the United States and Israel will always have relations, even if they are slightly rocky. What's interesting is going to see how the U.S. jury is going to interact with the new government coming into Israel. This is a far-right side of the spectrum. It doesn't appease most voters in the United States, where the majority of jury votes for the Democrats. Again, lots of warnings, lots of mixed feelings coming out not to put extremely far-right people like Itamar Ben-Gvir and Smotrich in the government as ministers that can actually make laws. But it's going to be a bit of tit and tat, given the fact that this is a relationship that's been around for years. It gets stronger every year that passes. It's likely that it will remain that way, but obviously concerns are being brought to the forefront.
Batya Leventhal joining me live in studio this morning on All Things Israeli Coalition Talks. Thank you.